Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Voices in My Head. And this is episode 41. And guess who we've got for a special treat for a guest today? Oh, who is it? Oh, no, you gotta guess. James Bond. No, wait. He's not no. Oh, I don't know then. Who? Tara Sands. Oh, boy, Tara. Oh, wait, I know who she is. She does a lot of voices. Yes, she does, very much so. And she's going to talk to Basil right now, so join in.
Voices in My Head, the podcast where we talk about audiobooks, the audiobook industry, pretty much anything related to telling stories over your ears stuff. And then today we have a very special guest, my cousin from another cousin, Tara Sands.
Hi.
Who may or may not be distantly related.
It's not my real name, so probably not.
Oh.
It's a made-up name.
Oh, you're breaking my heart and my son.
I'm so sorry.
Because I told them they may be related to
Oh my gosh.
one of your
No,
characters.
literally, it is a completely made-up name. When I was 15 or 16, I started working, and my real last name is really hard to spell. And different members of my family had used variations of Sands, Sanders, all different things like that. So I said, all right, Tara Sands. I didn't, when you're a kid, you don't think about changing your name and that's your name for the rest of your life. But it's a good name.
Hey, it's a great
You were so lucky to be born with it.
Exactly, because
Yep.
people will associate me with you. And so that makes me happy.
Well, and the Sands Hotel, I get asked that a lot. I'm like, I have nope, not a chance. Nope, they don't let me stay for free. They don't care. No perks.
I actually got audited by the IRS about 20 years ago, or
That's
almost got
fun.
because they wanted, and they called me. At the time, I lived on a farm in interior Alaska, and they called me to ask, okay, we're going to do this audit. You need to go to Fairbanks, which was the next city over, and meet with an IRS agent on this date. Oh, and make sure to bring the records of your offshore bank accounts and the 1.8 million you have at Florida. Now, excuse me? And it turns out that the president of the Bank of the Bahamas is Basil Sands.
Wow.
He's Basil W. Sands. I'm Basil J. Sands. Almost.
Well, it's really too bad we're not related to him. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, he is a multi-billionaire ambassador to Japan. And I asked, could I possibly be related? And when they saw my picture, they were like, no. He's like a dark black guy. And
No. Oh, well. Well, I'm glad we sorted that out. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Tara, I reading your bio and reading all the stuff about you to prep for this interview, I was like, dang, this girl's been everywhere. You
I don't know if
done
that's good
a
or
lot
bad.
of voice stuff. I did not realize the depth of your experience.
Oh, well, I have my, I almost used an expression that almost came out wrong. And then I thought, let's just not say it because it could sound ridiculous. My hands in a lot of not pots, no. Kettles on the pot, no. Pots on the no. What is it? A lot of irons on the stove? I got a lot of irons on the stove.
How about brands in the fire?
But yeah, that's a good one. I work in a lot of different areas of voiceover, which sometimes is good and sometimes I think is not so good. But I like it, keeps me entertained. So.
Well, that's good. How did you get into this whole voiceover thing? I mean, you do audiobooks, you also do anime, and you do regular voiceover, commercial voiceover, and on-screen roles. How did you get into this?
I will say whatever anyone pays me to. No. I started acting. I was a kid, and I was in a local singing competition at the Y in New Jersey, and one of the judges was a talent manager. And we lived really close to New York City. So that's kind of, that happens there. It wasn't as crazy as like being in the middle of Kansas. And
right.
So she said, come to my office. And she put me on the phone with an agent and said, talk. And I said, okay, hi, how are you? And the next day they sent me on a voiceover audition. Again, I was probably 15. I had no idea what a voiceover was. I guess if I really thought about it, I might, but it didn't occur to me this was a job. And I auditioned to say for a Compound W wart cream commercial, and I had to say something like, "Ew, gross! It's a wart," or something to that effect. And I got the job, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's cool." My mom was like, "They pay you for that?" Uh, and yeah, and I was like, "Wow, this is a really cool part of the industry." I was still doing theater and all that, but I really gravitated toward the voiceover stuff, and that was where most of my work was. So they say, like, if you kind of follow that road that where it's heading, and as much as I love theater and all that, this was where I was getting most of my work, and I turned out, luckily I loved it.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool. And to get there at such a young age, um, I, I wonder, is there the same kind of stresses and I don't know, stigmas, or I don't know what word to use on this, for a teenage or child actor in voiceover as there is in on-screen work?
What stigma in what way?
Like, like a lot of child actors end up
Oh,
being
well,
in
I mean,
tabloids
I
and
was old enough. I think if I had been like 5, it would have been different. I begged my parents. My mom hated. She wouldn't sit in the auditions rooms with me because it made her so tense. She hated seeing the stage mothers. So I had such normal parents that really didn't even want me doing this. So, which was probably for the best. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it wasn't crazy. It was kind of an after school hobby. I mean, I was working. I was doing theater in New York after school and stuff, but it never I still went to public school, and it never took over my life in that way that on the E True Hollywood Stories.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not it wasn't luckily I wasn't too successful, I guess you could say. I worked enough that I knew I loved it and to want to do more of it, but I went to college and studied theater, and then came back and really started trying to make a living at it.
well, that's pretty cool. Now, what were some of your earliest roles? I know you talked about the Compound W, the wart cream, and what other roles did you have before you felt like, oh, dang, this is it. This is my life.
Well, the first audiobook job I did was the old Babysitters Club books.
Mm,
And that was the kind of voiceover work you could really sink your teeth into, because it was, a book, and it was a multicast. So there were a bunch of us in the booth reading, and then if it was your character story, then you would come back and do some more of the narration. And that to me felt very close to theater. And
mm,
I think that was probably like the coolest early job I had, where I thought, oh, wow, this is really fulfilling without having to put on makeup and
right.
rehearse and memorize. I mean, not that I'm lazy, but it was another way of getting to that point and still be, and not have to do the same show 8 times a week, and
Yeah.
really, get to work on lots of different projects. So I loved working on those audiobooks, and that was a big wake up call for me.
Oh, cool. Well, I can tell
Yeah.
you that my favorite thing about audiobooks is exactly the not memorizing the scripts.
I know, we're so bad.
'Cause yeah, I am.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a muscle. It's like funny, because now if I ever rarely have to memorize something, I stink at it, because it really is, when you're doing theater and you're doing TV and stuff, the memorization starts coming easier the more you do. It's a muscle and all that.
Hmm.
So now now I'm terrible at memorization. I'm not proud of.
Hey, well,
Yeah.
but you're good at improvisation, instinct.
I, yes, I'll say, sure. I'll take that.
We got to take what we can take.
Well, we still have to, I think our instincts have to be sharper than a lot of other things where there's tons of takes, and you know, we're doing such long form stuff that you don't redo every. People say, "Oh, do you do the book? Like, do you go back and redo it?" I go, "No, no, no. Like, I really hope to get that audiobook right the first time I read it."
Right.
We just have to be really present in a different way than knowing that you have a take 2 or 3 and 7 and 8. I
Right.
mean, I guess, we do if we need it, and if there's really hard pronunciations, but not if you want to get a great flow going. You really want to get it right the
Yeah,
first or
you got to get
second
it
time.
right. And get paid by the hour of finished product, not
Yeah,
the
we
hour.
want to be as efficient as possible. And I
Exactly.
actually like that about this in this part of the business, is that your efficiency and skill
Mhm.
is pays off.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The what you've done, you've done some major anime. I mean, Pokemon. You are Bulbasaur.
It's true.
That, you know,
Yeah, it's very weird to me still.
my son, my middle son, he was a huge Pokemon fan,
And
and
you had to watch a lot of it.
I watched like all of it,
I'm
and
so
watched him
sorry.
play the video
Not I'm
games.
sorry, but I know those voices can, after a while. It's a lot.
Well, the funny thing is, he was a Boy Scout leader,
Hmm.
a boy leader in the Boy Scouts. He was a camp counselor, and his counselor name was Bulbasaur.
Stop it.
So he was
Oh
totally.
my gosh.
And I told him
That's so cool.
he's in his 20s now, and I told him I'm about to interview you. He was like, "Crap, can I watch live?" And
That's so
yeah.
cool. I love that. I met someone who had a dog named Pokemon. I mean, named Bulbasaur, and I thought that was so great.
Oh yeah.
What's so weird about it too? I mean, like again, that was a job I did 20 years ago. I
Mm,
guess at this point, I had no idea I'd still be talking about it now. I mean, that first time, I really it was just lucky that I was there that day when Bulbasaur showed up, and they said, "Hey, can you try this?"
mm,
And I don't think any of us knew which characters were big characters, which ones were recurrent. We were just sort of winging it a lot.
wow.
Um, Really, just that was lucky. I got to play. I have a cheat sheet for them, but I did the first 8 seasons of that show, and I got to play over 50 characters because we were sort of an ensemble.
Right, right.
They sort of just threw you, if you were there, that you tried all different things, and that was again some of the best training for audiobooks
Mm,
because there was, audiobooks, you end up having to do voices you never would have thought of. And you're like, ooh, that's good for my repertoire. Um, Same with that kind of job where they were like, they wanted bang for their buck. So if you were there to like be old woman and then play the 5-year-old girl and hey, can you be this crazy creature? And
right,
so,
right.
I mean, it's really, audiobooks are kind of the only world where that really happens also, where you're playing tons of
Oh
roles
yeah.
more than I care to sometimes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Do you feel like sometimes this job lends us a sense of almost immortality?
A little bit. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's something very powerful about playing all those roles and controlling where this book goes in a reader's interpretation. Like, it's almost too powerful. Some there's some books I tell people to read and not listen to me doing because I said, no, no, I want you to hear that for yourself. I don't want you to hear how I decided. But there's a little bit of playing God in that to me because literature's so sacred.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't think that was the immortality you were talking about, but that's where my mind went with it.
Well, that's
Um,
pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, and that's the thing about it. Each of us has our own impression of what it is that we're doing and the impact that we're having on other people.
yeah.
And you do a lot of. I looked up the list of your titles that you've narrated, at least what's under your Terra Sands name.
Yes.
If you have
Yeah.
a pseudonym, I have no idea. But the the majority of your work is young adult fiction.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Kids and young adult. I mean, I've started doing nonfiction recently, which is a whole other beast.
Oh yeah.
But the kids stuff, especially because when I work on that, not the young adult as much, but for kids, my goal is I want them, if their parents are listening to this on a road trip, I want the kids to be to sit still and be listening, so the parents can just drive. And and that's what I think about. I think, okay, am I making this interesting enough that a kid will sit still during this and not be whining?
You ever get the temptation to say, Johnny, stop?
Yeah, and the editors take it out. It's such a bummer. I wish
Oh,
they would keep that in. Yeah, no, I mean I
I have
think
a tab on
that's
Johnny.
because all kids are named Johnny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like for the kids stuff, that's a great way to look at it. For the young adult stuff, it's interesting because they're more choosing what
Mm,
they're listening to, and then there's also adults listening to that. So you don't want to.
mm.
I have to be careful walking that line between cartoons and audiobooks. And if I have a good director, I'll be like, please rein me in, because it's just different
You
energy
sound
completely.
kiddish.
Yeah, and I mean, I go cartoony, like,
Mm.
and it's annoying. I wouldn't want to listen to a whole book of me doing that. So it's a different, it's a different voice we use for that.
Now, transitioning from the anime and the stage and camera work into audiobooks, what made you make that leap to go from one to the other?
I don't, it's funny. It wasn't ever a decision. It just was wherever the work was, I went. And that's sort of at the time when audiobooks were booming was, the same time that, having a home studio was feasible. And that's, I just started getting more work and I thought, wow, I really love this. I'm going to put some focus into it. I mean, I was lucky when you start working as a kid, you don't think, how should I strategize? How should I? But when the Audible boom really happened, I thought, okay, I got to strategize because the voiceover industry is changing completely. It's no longer just a business, as you know, that happens in New York and LA and Chicago. You live in Alaska.
Yeah.
So I saw my competition is everywhere. I have to be doing everything I can. I have to I have to kind of figure out what my niche is. I have, start treating it like a business really, which kind of in some ways makes it more fun, some ways makes it less fun. So audiobooks there was a lot of work at that. It's sort of leveled out, I think.
Right.
But
Not
we
quite
were lucky.
but still, it's going.
It's going, and we can, often work from home. And I mean, I guess that's all your work. Yeah.
Yeah. For yourself living down in LA, is that correct? You're in
Yeah, I'm in LA.
So, I mean, you've got studios around there, but I know a lot of folks in LA and around that area that still primarily work at home.
Yeah, I mean, New York, it was all studios. So when I lived in New York that's where I worked on Pokemon. So for the first 10 years of my career, it was all studios, all with great director. I mean, it was a completely different business back then. People would have laughed if they knew that narrators would be directing themselves. I mean, they would have thought that was hilarious.
Right.
So few books got put on audio. It was a big deal. And usually if you did go to audio, it was a good book. Now there's, everything's on audio. So you're stuck with some stinkers sometimes. Back then it was like, oh yeah, these are juicy, good books. And always a great director and engineer. I mean, working at the top studios, there's some great studios now in LA where I get to go, but it's not the norm at all anymore.
Right. Now with your audiobooks, I mean, like we said, you do a lot of kids' books. Is there any genre or type of book that you really want to do more of that you don't do as much as you'd like?
Now that I'm moving into nonfiction, I'd love to do some that are lighter. I've been doing a lot of very heavy nonfiction, and I'd love to do like a comedy or, bio, some kind of book where, like got to do a kid's book about Lucille Ball.
Oh, nice.
A bio, about her. And I loved that. And I would love to do something more long form like that. It was a pretty short book, unfortunately. But lately my nonfiction's been so heavy. I'd love to do some kind of humor book. The bummer is that a lot of those authors want to read those themselves because they're funny. So we don't get to do a lot of those. But yeah, something a little lighter. I've been doing a lot of religion nonfiction, and it's just heavy because you go home with it. When you spend all day in the booth with something, it's hard to shake it. Yeah.
I was actually telling my wife last night I finished recording the Scottish horror series.
Oh God, that's exhausting. That sounds exhausting. Yeah.
Demons and demon possession and all this. I got in the shower and I was still talking with a Scottish accent. In there. And she was like, "Stop it! Stop it! You're stealing the
Yeah, that's something too. That sounds fun. I miss getting in I feel like the car ride or the subway ride was the way to kind of shake the day. But when you're working at home, you don't get that.
Right.
You just walk out of your booth into your world again. You're like, wait, I need a separator. I need something to kind of, unless it's unless it's a book that puts you in a great mood, which luckily a lot of the kids' books do.
That's good.
Yeah.
I wish I could get more of those, but some things just don't lend themselves.
If you sounded like a teenage girl, it would be weird. So you're probably lucky that's not how your voice turned out.
I can make the sound. It just sounds like she's in the body of a 50-year-old man who possibly was a chain smoker at one point. So yeah, it's not. No. Anyway, so if you had, let's see here. Now this will be edited. So when I stop.
Oh good. Yeah. So some of my dumb stuff, just take the hell out of there.
Oh yeah.
Then I'll start cursing so you can beat me. Okay.
There you go.
I'm trying so hard not to swear.
I'll leave those parts in.
I'm like this curse like a truck
Or
driver.
maybe I'll do the Craig Ferguson thing and just put the little flag over.
I love that. I think it's always funnier even when there's nothing dirty being said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Banana, banana, banana. Yeah, and then beep. Okay.
But yeah, but some people may find that offensive. You know, the anti-banana people.
That's true.
There
That
are-
anti-banana lobby.
I'm sure there are
I don't
some
want to
who
upset them.
clicked on them and been traumatized.
That's that's a very good point. So really, I did not think about that. Thank God we had this talk.
Yeah. So you said you did your initial parts of acting in New York. You're from New
Mhm.
Jersey originally. You worked in New York, and then what brought you to the West Coast?
So in around 2004-ish, five. 2005. Yeah, I started hosting a TV show on the Cartoon Network. I was like the on-air host for that show, and it was weird because we shot in Atlanta about a week a month, but we had extra shoots here and there, and I could kind of decide to live wherever I wanted at that point.
Oh.
And I was doing an off-Broadway play at the time, and it was February, and it was freezing, and the show would end around midnight or 11:30 midnight, and I would try to get a cab, and I'd be shivering, and I thought, I have to get out of here. I'm really cold. And that job afforded me kind of the luxury of being able to live wherever I wanted since they would have to fly me in anyway. So I tried living in LA once before without a job, and it was not as easy. So I thought this is my chance to try it out with
Yeah,
a
that whole living
with a
on the
job.
beach homeless thing is
Not cute.
South.
Nope. No. So luckily this time I stayed. I've been here a long time. So that job actually just kind of was a safety net for me to figure out where I wanted to live.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm a New Yorker at heart. I mean,
Oh, really?
I'm a Jersey girl, East Coast. That's my energy and my speed.
You know, and that's an interesting thing because I do see a difference sometimes between East Coast and West Coast and Midwest and Canadian
Yeah.
people as far as their approach to acting, or
Hmm.
their approach to this whole business, no matter what part of the business they're in. How do you see the difference coming from New York to out west? Do you see a difference?
I mean,
People do.
it's almost an overall life thing and not just business. I think it would be whatever business they approached. I mean, New York, you get there early. You get there, on time is late. And then there's LA time, like, oh yeah, stuck in traffic. And, the people just, I think here too, you watch people make it overnight and there's different, there you're used to career actors who do theater and no one knows who they are, and that's great. And they I mean, look, voiceover, when I started doing it, I loved being anonymous. Now, in terms of animation and all that, we're expected to have a big online presence, and they check your Twitter followers before they hire you sometimes, and it's all the fun anonymity is gone.
Well, I'd never get hired because all 7 of my followers would be like, huh?
Luckily, audiobooks are not following that pattern, and hopefully they don't.
Happy about that.
Yeah, I am too. So yeah, it's just a different. I mean, look, it's just a different time, and that's gonna. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I travel to do comic conventions and stuff, and just going to different parts of the world. It's fun to just see different people's. I think we're all. I don't want to generalize anything or stereotype.
Right.
But yeah, there's an energy in New York where you're just hustling, and at the end of the day, you're just so grateful that you got through that day in that city. There's a reason, like they say, if you can make it there, if you can live in that town and pay your rent, and you feel like you've accomplished something.
You know what? I can see that because I've only visited New York half a dozen times. And typically it was for conventions that were somewhere around Times Square, either APAC, Thriller Writers Convention, and so on.
Yeah.
And so I usually ended up renting a hotel or a bed and breakfast or a Airbnb in like Hell's Kitchen. And
that's a great neighborhood, yeah.
Walking around at 3 o'clock in the morning in a neighborhood that 2 or 3 visits later you discover has a rather high crime rate. Oh,
not anymore.
To
me, I'm like, Hell's Kitchen is actually really safe now. 20 years ago was different.
Mugging. And
That's
me,
so
here, I'm
funny.
a 50-year-old ex-Marine who weighs 250 pounds, and some guy started to walk up to me. I growled and he walked away, but
Right.
still.
Yeah, I mean, my theory in New York was always if anyone messes, and I never, luckily, knock on wood, never had to use it. I always thought if anyone ever messes with me, I'm just gonna start barking like a dog,
There you go.
just out crazy the crazy. But I feel much less safe walking down the street here because it's not populated. Whereas in New York, there's always people around. You know, if I'm finishing work late, there's here because there's like a studio down the street for me actually. So, or like if I go out with friends, I live in a walking area, but it's never populated like New York was. In New York, I mean, it's like safety in numbers.
Because people are going to see what's going on and maybe intervene or call
Maybe.
the
I
cops.
mean, they just ignore it. But yeah, but at least you feel like there was a witness.
Mm, there you go.
Whereas like
You say, where,
here,
where'd this
yeah.
lady come from? Oh, yeah, this chick was walking down the street.
Yeah, totally. So like yeah, here there's I mean, when I see an empty street, that's the feeling I don't like.
Mm. That's interesting because, here, a lot of our neighborhoods are empty during the day because everyone's at work.
Right.
And my wife's aunt came from South Korea to visit us, and she lives in Seoul, which is like the New York City of Korea.
Right. That's really populated.
10,
Yeah.
12 million people. And she said it never stops moving there. And when she spent like a month with us here, she was like, yeah, this really was a ghost town. I didn't know what was happening. I was like, oh yeah. And now that you mentioned that, I was like, oh, okay. I can
Yeah, I think I'd
that's
go a little
see
stir
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so used to people and especially because if I'm working from home, I can walk down the street and go to Target
Mm,
just to see people. Like, I mean, today I was working from home today and I kind of just went, you know, to some places in the neighborhood just to see humans and get some errands done, but really more just to get out of my house and get out of the booth and,
right.
you know,
You know,
because you could go nuts.
I read an article this morning that said that 35% of people in America don't ever leave their house.
Oh God, that sounds crazy.
That
That I would go
that
nuts.
yeah, that's like Crazyville for sure. That
Yeah.
oh no, couldn't do it. I have to get out. At least open my
It's not
garage door and
healthy.
breathe fresh air. Anyway,
Something. Yeah. Get the mail. Go to the mailbox. Yeah.
that's it. As you've progressed along your career, how did you get your first audiobook job?
It was an audition. I mean, it was very different again then because not that many were produced, so an agent sent me that audition.
And this was
Um,
in early 2000s.
it might have even been earlier than that.
Oh,
I
okay.
was young. Yeah, I mean, that was the Babysitters Club stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, it was all done very differently. Um, it was over at Paul Rubin's old studio. I mean, like the people I worked with at the beginning are like giants in this industry that
Oh yeah,
like,
Paul Rubin is like the
oh God, I mean, that's who taught
god of
me
coaching.
what to do. Yeah, he's incredible. I mean, that
We're
was
taught by a
people like,
deity.
well, that thing, people like, did you ever coach with him? I go, no, I learned on the job. I mean, that's how
Mm,
different it was back then. And nobody like sought out a career in audiobooks back then because there probably wouldn't have been enough work to just do this. Now there is.
mm-hmm.
It was a lot of theater actors would do it on their time off. And, I still think theater actors probably are the best suited for this job because they really use their voices correctly. But yeah, it was just another audition I went on and whatever auditions I had that week. I had that kid energy. I wasn't doing research like what is an audiobook like. I had never listened to an audiobook. I've listened to one in my life maybe at this point still.
Oh wow.
Because it feels like work to me. Like I can't. It's hard to just enjoy it.
Right.
I start
I feel that way about
overanalyzing it.
reading books. I don't
Yeah,
read something unless I'm getting paid for it.
I know. I speed read. I can't slow down. I'm so used to prepping a book and speed reading it
Mm,
that it's hard to slow my brain down and just read,
right.
which is such a bummer because I love reading.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, so that job it was just an odd. I mean, I wish I could remember. I wish it was like a better story than that. But it was just
But that's a real
now we rarely audition for books. Sometimes we
yeah.
we get to, but if the author's making a decision, but
Right. Well, and that depends on where you're at in your career. If you've been at it for, in your case, almost 20 years,
yeah,
it's easy to, they know your name. People say, oh, yeah, we want Tara's voice.
Sometimes, or at least they have enough to go online and listen to. I mean, I feel like that's what happens more than anything else. Is it's not like they just say we loved her. It's more like, hey, Mr. Mrs. Author, here's some voice samples for you. So we're not going through the process, but
exactly. That's how I think. What's it? B Audio does it
hmm
that way.
yeah, they have their samples of you.
Send
Yeah,
out their samples, and the author can just listen and say, okay, I like this, I don't like this. Let's go with this.
right.
And
Well,
so that way,
Penguin Random House has Random House has a database called Ahab where they pull a lot of their clips from.
yep,
So, you know, luckily you and I have done enough books that we have references that someone can find online.
exactly. They can say, okay, we like this guy, we like this girl.
And
This is
you
what.
have yeah, and if you've worked in enough genres, they can say, okay, let's see how they do it horror. Let's see how they do it Scottish horror.
There you go.
In your case. Yeah, that's what's cool too, is the more you work, the more obscure kind of, there was a time that for some reason I just kept getting hired to do young Southern narration, and but it was great because I just happened to have that online, so they had something to go to. Luckily, they trusted me with that first job.
That leads me to a good question here. Well, at least I think it's a good question.
Let's see. I'll be the judge of that.
But so you're from Jersey.
Yep.
You've got your accent that's your accent. I mean, it's obviously not a stereotypical Jersey accent. It's a real accent.
It could be, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. But we can tell, sort of, a little.
A little, yeah.
How do you work on developing accents? Do you think it's something a person can work on, or is it something that's kind of natural and you just grow it?
It's not my strong suit. I can either, usually if I get them easily and naturally, I can do it. I am not someone that, I worked on Australian. I still can't do it.
Mm.
Like, there's certain accents that for me, studying is not going to make a difference with. For some people, that's not the case. They can just immerse themselves in it and work on it and get it. I know that if it doesn't happen pretty quickly, it's probably not going to happen for me, which is a bummer. Or I'll have some go-to lines in a certain dialect that I'll listen to a YouTube clip of, whatever, just to get into it. But it's that, there are some narrators. I mean, that is their strong suit,
right.
And that's what they do. That's definitely not when they say, let's call Tara, she's the accent girl.
Right. There's guys like PJ Auckland who.
Yeah, I mean, and he can teach it too. I feel like it's a different skill to be able to do it than it is to teach it, and he has both of those.
To know the science of where to put your tongue in your mouth,
yeah,
and where to put the glottal stuff or whatever. It's like, wow.
Really.
I thought I was decent at it, and then I worked with PJ a couple times.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, like I thought I was okay, and then I started listening to some other people. I was like, oh wow, yeah, nope, I don't got this. But I love doing it. I mean, it's fun to do. But when I do finally get to be in my comfort zone and do like a New York, it's so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How do you handle dialogue with folks? This is a question actually that I saw on I think it was the ACX group on Facebook recently.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was talking about doing dialogue between characters with all different accents. And do you straight just read through it and flip back and forth as you go, or read a line, take a breath because you're going to edit it, read another line?
Oh gosh, I never even thought to just take that. I just do it because I want the pacing to be there. But I guess with this technology, I could, and at certain studios, if they're not doing a punch record, do we have to explain that, or do most people? I guess a punch record, yeah. If they're listening to an audiobook podcast.
If you don't know what a punch record is, kids.
Well, no. So a punch record is where really like you're getting the finished product as you go. But certain studios give you the luxury of just doing a straight record through, and then they go back and edit it. So if I know I have that, then I'll take a little bit more of a breath and hope that they do a good job editing. Mm-hmm. But you also don't know who's editing. So it's, it's interesting. So before we started working from home, it never occurred to me to really think about like how I could master this whole thing. be in control of the whole thing. Now I'm so used to being in control of the whole thing that when I go to another studio, I'm listening for the outside noises, and I'm thinking, oh wait, did they catch that pickup? Did they? We're thinking so much differently than we used to. You have, I think, the advantage of starting this way because this is what you're used to.
Right. I only started in this 2006 as a podcaster and 2010 as a full-time narrator.
Right. So you're used to doing it yourself. Yeah.
Studios had just opened up and became the thing. So yeah,
Right.
I've always done it myself.
Yeah,
and
it's
nobody
crazy.
wanted to pay the price to fly me down from Anchorage.
Well, there's that. You're worth it. You're totally worth it.
Well, thank you very much. Do you notice in the period of time that you've been doing this, do you notice a difference in the quality of the product? And if so, is it better or not so better?
I can only speak from my own experience and from anecdotally what I've heard, that because there's so much, that there's a lot slipping through the cracks, that, where you'll hear a dog barking. Right. I don't think that would happen if Paul Rubin was directing.
Right.
That just doesn't happen in a professional studio atmosphere. There's no dog there. So I would have to imagine that's probably true.
You're in a studio that does dog bones.
Yeah, that's right.
They just keep the puppies in there.
It's right. I even feel like for myself, there's times when I was working too much alone, I was I would even let myself get away with some laziness sometimes, and I would have to catch myself because there wasn't that person listening, and there's no substitute for that. There's just for another set of ears.
I mean, there's nobody there to stop you from having that fourth scotch while you're recording.
Yes, exactly. I'm only on my third, so stop judging. Yeah. So yeah, I can't speak to the quality overall, but I know that there's definitely times when my quality is changed. Like I do my best work with a great director. If I have, and I clarify with a great director, because there's some directors that are not necessarily they're going to help your process and might hinder it. Or some places that have engineers, they call directors that are not really directing. So I might as well be at home. There's that situation as well.
I see. Do you have any specific examples? I mean, not to name or anything, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's great is when a director, like at Penguin Random House, for example, those directors come in and you're not responsible to look up every pronunciation and get in touch with the author. They do all that for you. So they've read and prepped the book, and I can just worry about acting, and which is amazing. I'm not looking at the screen to see if I'm peeking in the audio, and then there's other places where the director does not have the luxury of reading the book ahead of time. And they're there just to tell you if you've made a mistake, and that's not really directing. I mean, they'll get a director credit, but to me, that's not directing. That's engineering. Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing that beats having someone else prep and have insight into the characters from the author. When I'm working, I know I have very limited interaction with the authors. So yeah, it depends if it's a great director. When it's Paul Rubin, it's only going to make your performance a million times better. When it's Joe Schmo, who's, I worked with some directors who over-direct, and you can't do that with a 10-hour book.
Yeah, I just came from working at the garage, and I'm here to direct this audio.
Well, some of them fancy themselves. If you're working on something light and fun, and they think it's Shakespeare and want to just put their mark on it. So there's that thing too. You can't micromanage a 10-hour book. You can micromanage a 30-second commercial.
Right.
But you can't do that with long form. You have to pick your battles, and you have to kind of let someone get into their groove, and not, maybe you can go back then and get some stuff later, but you have to give them the space to flow and to get into a rhythm and there's places where I've been stopped so much that I said, I'm sorry, I can't get into a rhythm here. Can I just get this page done? And then if you want to go back, we can pick stuff up.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's tricky.
Yeah, getting cut off in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, I mean, there's a rhythm to these books. There's a musicality to them, and it's like getting cut off in the middle of a bar, like of music. It's
Right,
not at a bar getting a drink, which
right.
never happens to me because I never need to be cut off. No, just kidding. Uh, so yeah, so it's different directors have different styles, and unfortunately, you guys don't get the benefit of once in a while having a director. I wish you could sometimes, just to feel the difference of that.
Oh, one of these days it'll happen when they realize my greatness.
Well, some companies will let you have it's not even that. It's some companies will let you have a Skype director. And the truth is, it's not that you need it. It's just fun to have a different,
Oh, I would love
yeah.
to have someone listen as I'm more often.
It's a luxury. Yeah, it's crazy that it's a luxury now.
Yeah, because especially after I've, paid my editor and discovered, wow, that was a lot of hours he had to fix.
Yeah. You don't get it until you really see that edit sheet come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You had how many pickups?
I know. God, it's daunting. Yeah.
But that's the way life is. If you had the opportunity to choose the dream title
Yeah,
you'd like to narrate, what would it be?
I mean, I do love those like kids fantasy things where really I can be creative with the voices and like, I
Mm,
mean, the realistic ones are fun too, but there's more rules attached to those.
right.
The fantasy stuff for kids, you really can just be nuts. And
That's
no one can tell you that's wrong. That's not what a ladybug sounds like.
yeah.
Like that's what's fun.
You got the ladybug down.
Well, yeah. So I mean, no
From
one is gonna complain about that. I mean, people will complain because they find things to complain about. I mean, I don't. Do
Then
you
you
read
can ask him,
reviews?
how
I
often
really.
have you spoken with a ladybug?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have.
you crazy. Hey, crazy. How many times have you spoken to a ladybug? And I try not to read some of those reviews, but sometimes I do think they're funny.
Hmm.
That the same book can inspire such mixed feedback.
Oh yeah.
I hate her. I love her. I hate her. I mean, it's just so interesting that it just shows you that there's no right and wrong, I think is the best lesson from those.
I actually that reminds me of an interview or a review I had of one of my novels. Not I recorded it, but I also
That
wrote
you
it.
read. Yeah, yeah.
And
You
it
wrote.
said the review said something like horribly xenophobic American jingoism, yet somehow entertaining. What?
What? So how do you really feel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're not going to ever please anyone. It's way more fun. I mean, I was taught this at an early age. I interned, not intern, I guess intern would be the right word, one summer in college for Rupert Holmes, who was he wrote the Broadway musical Edwin Drood. He also wrote Broadway plays. He wrote TV shows. He's wrote the Pina Colada song. He's just this prolific writer and musician. And he said to me, he goes, no one ever got famous for writing a good review. And I was like, oh God, you're right. And that stuck with me. And it's funny because, even like the college paper would write reviews of our shows, and somehow hearing him say that always made me feel better. Even to this day, I always think about it. I go, it is not fun to write a good review. That's
No.
not fun. You don't get to use fun words, and you don't get to, it's not as sad as why, like, people usually don't bother to write the good review.
Right, right, right.
So I always keep that in mind when I read some of that stuff. Like, yeah, there's probably something else going on in your life, or or was more fun for you to write, and you didn't write that time that you liked something. So, I mean, I know for me too. I only write a Yelp review if I hate something because I want to warn somebody.
Don't go.
So, yeah, I don't. I should, but I never take the time. I should take the time to write the good reviews,
Mm.
but
I've
life.
got to the point where I don't usually write many reviews unless I really love something. I usually just do stars.
It's an extreme. Yeah, if it's an extreme of something, either way, yeah.
Right, right. If the girl at the donut shop cussed me out because I ordered the maple instead of the nuts,
Right. How
that's
dare
a
you?
review.
Yeah, that gets a review.
But on the other hand, if she just handed me what I wanted, yeah.
Yeah, like I wrote, like my accountant messed up a lot of my stuff last year. I left a Yelp review. There
Oh,
was a Yelp review that happened. Yeah.
yeah, someone messes up your accounting.
Well,
That
because
deserves.
also I felt like I owed it to whoever that might happen to.
Mm,
That felt like a responsibility. I took on a responsibility that day.
there you go. Now,
Yeah.
I've got, I don't know if you know about my four roommates. that live with us here. They rent our basement space. The 4 leprechauns that live in my house.
Oh boy, here we go.
And they would like to talk to you. They're gonna be kind of bummed that you're not on video,
Oh
but
no. They'll live.
they'll live.
They'll live imaginarily. Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, let me invite them in here. Hold on.
Oh boy.
Boys, you want to come up? I asked Mr. Basil. We're here. And oh, look at that. That's Tara Sands. We've seen her picture before. I think we actually saw her one time. Oh, by the way, Miss Tara, my name is Feely. I'm the eldest of the Leprechaun brothers, and this is my brother, Neely. He's the second
Feely?
brother.
You could go to jail for that. What?
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 Why
Nothing.
would I go to jail? Well, I have been incarcerated before, but it was very short, and I was not convicted.
As long as your first name's not touchy.
No,
Not,
no,
you're not okay, that's what I was worried about. Okay.
no, just Feely.
So you're the first brother.
I'm
We
the
got
first brother,
Feely.
Feely, and my next brother, Neely,
Yeah.
Gnillii. We put
Mm-hmm.
the 2 I's because the 2 I's makes it an E
Yeah.
in the ancient tongue, I think. But they didn't have eyes. Well, they had eyes, but not eyes. If you know what I mean. And this is our 3rd brother. His name is Buffin. Buffin was named Buffin, but originally his name was actually really, and he got buffed in the head, so we call him Buffin
Oh,
ever since then.
so
Buffin,
sorry.
say hello. Hello.
Oh, hi. I'll talk slower when I talk to you.
Oh, there's no need for that. They just make fun of me because I'm dumb. No. Wait. Anyway, here's our 4th brother. His name is Bertold. Bertold, say hello. Hello. I'm the youngest of the 4. Also,
Oh, Bertold, you're adorable.
Well, thank you very much. I like to be adored by people like you. It makes me feel so good in my heart.
We all win.
You seem to be sitting very still in this picture.
Oh, it's a skill. Yeah, I'm like in those, I don't know if you've been to Times Square, but there are people who stand very still and people give them money. So I'm hoping that somehow that will happen here.
Is that? We saw something like that last time we went there with Mr. Basil, but she was like naked except paint,
Yeah, no, I don't do that thing.
and we
That's
were embarrassed by that.
Yeah, I always wonder if those people practice standing still like in their living room.
Naked.
Like if you yeah, like is that something you rehearse for? Just standing still?
you know,
You just
I
go
would
for it.
imagine so, because
Yeah.
you'd have to learn not to sneeze, not to belch, not
Yeah.
to fart, because people will see that. Even if you're
Right.
perfectly still and you fart when you're naked, people will see that.
People
It
will
jiggles.
see that.
It
And
jiggles
if they don't see it, they'll smell it.
very quickly, and then they'll know
Yes.
that's a rancid statue.
Yeah, and that's not the right job. That's how you know that's not the right job for you.
Exactly. If you are
Yeah.
flatulent, don't be a New York City naked statue.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Do they
Tweet
have
that.
those in
Definitely
today?
tweet that. Yeah. Do they have those? That's sort of a newer thing, I think. Oh, well, I don't know. There have been people standing still for centuries, I imagine.
I guess. That's a very good point. That's the only way they could make those statues and stuff, is because the people had to stand still for like a month
Right.
while
Yeah.
the guy was carving it.
You know what? This is just the modern day sculpture model job.
So you
I don't
could
know
be
them.
a pretty blonde Scottish model.
Oh gosh.
Sculpture.
Oh gosh. I see my sky. I tried to do some kind of accent. It all just fell flat. That's why I don't do the accents like you do.
That
Like
happens-
you guys, it's your natural accent,
This
obviously.
is our natural voice, and
Yeah,
that
it's not
is
an accent.
originally Irish, but that was a couple of generations ago. So he
I'll be-
pretends sometimes to know what he's doing and never talks to actual Irish people because he might
Because they might see through that.
they can see through it real quick. Real
Yes.
quick. And yeah, so he has to be careful. I'm not that bad, guys. You are. Anyway,
Anyway,
so we have a couple of questions and a scenario for you.
fantastic.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first question is, what is your favorite drink?
It's Diet Coke, but I'm gonna say LaCroix because I'm really, really trying to get off the sauce.
After sauce. That has a different meaning for us. But
Yeah,
So-
but that Diet Coke, that's
going from
gross.
Diet Coke to water, that's pretty innocent. That's good though.
Mhm.
That's good.
I know.
The Diet Coke kind of does things to your body.
I mean, I like a good margarita. Not gonna lie, but you know.
Feely once dated a margarita, not the drink. I don't think. Was it the
That's
drink?
adorable.
It might have been. She was kind of green.
She was a tall drink of water
There you go. There you tall.
or
We're like
a
3 foot
tequila.
4, so anything is kind of tall for us.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, the next question. What is your favorite food? Like if one of us was to say, I don't know, invite you out for a date somewhere, and we said, what would you like to eat? What would you say? And we had all the money in the world that we
All
could
the money in the world, still spaghetti. Spaghetti
Nice
all day.
spaghetti, though.
Yep. What?
Nice spaghetti.
It does.
It's like
No, it doesn't matter.
gold.
You know what? I just like spaghetti. I'm not picky.
What kind of
Or pizza, but I was gonna say pizza. I'm much pickier about, but a good pizza for I'm a New York snob when it comes to that.
I would be interested if you were ever to come up here and taste the pizza that we have in Alaska.
You'd want me to be honest?
Have you been here?
No, but every time I go out of certain areas and people tell me, no, we know how to do pizza.
Well,
Yeah.
we have the 3rd highest rated Yelp pizza place here in Anchorage, Alaska, in the whole
Interesting.
country. It's called Moose's Toot, but it's definitely not New York pizza.
Okay.
We've had New York pizza.
All right.
Like
I'm open
crunchy.
to it.
I'd be interested, but then again, you may say, "Oh, that sucks. People have bad voting choices." So, but they got the best beer in Alaska, so then you could forget about the pizza.
That's a good point.
So there you go. And they're a brewery too. They make
Look, sometimes beer goggles help when you're eating pizza. They make pizza delicious.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you make it somehow much easier to eat while you're walking. Although you wouldn't want to walk while you're eating pizza here because that Moose's Tooth place is actually on the freeway.
Oh, see, that is my favorite. When I go to New York, that is my favorite thing to do is grab a slice and eat it while I walk. I love it. Because there's nowhere else in the world. Yeah, exactly. It just evens out.
That means you could eat half a pie.
Yeah.
You burn it off by the time you get back.
I've done it.
Basil did that too, but he had actually had a few too many beers first, and walking and eating pizza.
No.
So yeah, that happens sometimes with him. Anyway, so okay, here's the scenario. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's going to be deep and introspective, and the actual identity of Tara Sands, whose name isn't actually Tara Sands.
That's true. Yep.
Here we go.
Uh-oh.
You might get some clues.
Should I have tissues handy in case I cry?
Oh, absolutely. Or have to blow your nose or.
This is like a Barbara Walters Who is Tara Sands special.
We're going to get to it here.
But with leprechauns. What are you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're leprechauns.
You're leprechauns. Okay, yeah.
The
That's what I thought. Okay.
The rainbow, the green clothes.
Yeah. After me, Lucky Charms. Yeah. Okay.
That guy, he's a jerk. We met him tag after a meeting one time, and no.
What about? How do you feel about the Keebler elves? You guys get along, or you guys have rumbles?
We get along. They're okay. They're like our American cousins. They emigrated in the 1800s, so they're okay. Although the Pillsbury Doughboy, he's obnoxious.
No, I know. I got into it with him once. You know what? I don't want to talk about it. We were having such a pleasant conversation. Let's just get back on track.
Skip the Doughboy because he's.
Actually, this is bringing up some bad memories for me.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didn't mean to do that.
This is weird now. Okay. This just got weird. Okay, yeah.
Okay, unweird.
Scenario.
Let's go to the scenario. The scenario is. Okay, what's the scenario, guys? You didn't think of it? I thought you were thinking of it. Okay, I'll think of something real quick. Hold on a second while we think of the scenario.
Holding.
I know. Well, you were supposed. Okay, I got it. Okay, here we go. You are traveling to Europe on an all-expense-paid trip. What country would you like to go to? That's just the first part of the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So what country would you go to in Europe if you were to go to Europe?
I would go back to Italy.
Ooh.
But a different part of Italy. I haven't seen Tuscany. So I would go to that part of Italy.
So, okay. So you're in Tuscany.
Yes.
And
I'm there.
Guy comes up and he has tusks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Tuscany.
naturally.
All the Tuscans, as far as I understand, have tusks.
Yeah.
And he
It's true.
says, "Hello, woman from America. Would you like to come be my wife? I love mushroom,
Mm.
and I am actually very handsome, but you must kiss me first." Do you think he had a good Italian accent there?
It was solid. Yeah, I'd give it a C plus. Yeah,
A
which
solid
is pat,
C
which is
plus.
passing. Yeah.
I
I mean, and also, I mean, what I felt was the tusks in the accent, which is
oh
not easy to do.
well, there you go. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was going for. The effect
Yeah.
of tusks in his mouth.
I heard the tusks.
So, so would you kiss him to find out if he was beautiful or not?
Kiss the frog? Hell yeah.
The tusked frog, who's like six
Yeah.
feet tall, full of hair. He's the
Yeah,
beautiful.
look,
He's
I
guy
grew up
that
on
we
Disney
wanted.
movies. This is like straight out of a Disney movie. Heck yeah. Can I say hell yeah? Hell yeah.
There you go. Yeah, this
I mean, I want to say something filthier, but yes, you always, yes, of course. Come
Well,
on
then
now.
he suddenly turns into a beautiful prince.
Great.
Except he has this really high voice in real life all of a sudden because the tusks are gone and his tonsils grew back and his testicles got stuck up inside.
I know some great vocal coaches. Mission accomplished, problem solved, done and
There you
done.
go. Now you're the princess in the big castle
Yeah.
for the princess.
Happily ever after.
Happily ever after. And he sings
And
soprano.
then I could
and you
use
don't
my
have to.
Disney princess voice and talk like this for the whole time. Yeah,
That's great.
that doesn't get annoying.
That I don't think that would last around here very long.
Oh, no.
Our butler, Gerald, he has very sensitive ears. He's a troll. He's like 9 feet tall, 500 pounds. And
Got weird roommates, dude.
they're renters. We're renters, I should say. And
Yeah.
Gerald, well, he's a butler. He's on hire. So
Yeah.
our rent pays for the troll.
Right.
But
Right.
he
I
keeps
see
stuff like
how
and
that
he
works.
does the
Yeah.
laundry and he looks decent in an apron. And
Mhm.
I don't like it when Gerald the troll wears the maid's dress. That's
I don't. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's just a lot to take in. You'll have to,
There's a lot of imagery that goes
there's
on
a lot of
here
imagery.
in Basil's house.
Yeah. It's
And
very audiobooky the way that you've described it. Yes.
yeah, he
An
belongs.
adjective.
I'm not sure if he's real. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So you're married to this prince now, and you're
Yeah,
living in
great,
the palace. And what would be the first thing that you would tell the people of your, I guess, princedom?
We build no walls to keep anyone out, and all are welcome.
Ah, well, then
I got political.
I got some cousins you might not do that with.
I know, me too.
Ah,
All are welcome in my kingdom. That's what I would
right,
say.
so all are welcome in my
No
kingdom.
nukes. No nukes, all are welcome. That would be my line.
But that works pretty good. Well, it's been terrific talking to you. We got to go back. We got to
Okay.
put cookies in the oven.
Yeah,
And
I want to talk to Basil about a few things after you're gone. Yeah.
okay. It's been terrific talking to you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Thank you. We'll see you later. See you, boys.
That was
Fun. Go away. Thank you very much. I'll see you later, Buzz. Oh, crap. The cookies are burning.
Wait. You could see that too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
Oh, yeah.
making sure. Just making sure.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we're good. Okay.
We're good. They're there
Okay.
for real. Don't worry about it. It's not.
Not worried.
The voice
Not
is
worried about them.
So, thank you very much for being on the show.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Great talking with you. And hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person sometime.
I know.
You know,
I won't be in New York this year, but
me neither. I won't be there for
okay.
at least the next 2.
yeah.
So, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping I have to actually get to go to London to Europe next week. So it's funny you said that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get out of here for a minute. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always good to do some travel, see something new, especially with all.
And
this
it's for work, so it's even better. So.
Oh, heck, yeah.
I know. A
Great
free
travel
trip.
when getting paid.
Yes.
So.
Very lucky.
Very good.
Well, this was so much fun. I don't know. Do we wrap it up the right way? Do you need to do like a proper closing on this, or how do you?
Oh, this is
Like-
fine. We just
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to and perhaps watching Voices in My Head episode 41 with Basil Sands talking to Tara Sands, not related, as they described in the show, that is. This is Gerald Ditroll, Basil's butler, and I'm signing off on the show, which is copyright 2019, Sandman Production Studios and Basil Sands. And have a wonderful summer day.